Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey Podcast, Patience.
Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast. This is episode 402. Make sure you click to subscribe right now so you'll never miss a journey. I post one episode each week and each guest has a fascinating story to tell. Joining us today is Akeem Shannon. Akeem has had more than his fair share of failures, fall downs, setbacks, and hurdles. But through failing repeatedly, he found himself inching his way toward success. From college dropout to CEO of an Inc. magazine. Hello, Akeem.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Patience.
Thank you for coming on the show. My audience are excited to hear your story. Just start by telling us one thing we are going to learn from you today.
Well, I think for me, one of the most powerful tools that I learned in this journey was the power of storytelling. The ability to be able to tell your story, the true story, the most vulnerable version of your story, and how that story will help you earn success. And so that, to me, I think is something that is missing in a lot of this online media that we see, where it's all about paid advertising and influencer marketing and digital design. Like, storytelling cannot be forgotten, because the thing that most people forget is at the end of the day, on the other end of the screen is a person, and people like great stories.
So I can't wait to hear about that. Let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background and how did you start this business?
Yeah. So, for me, it started way back, honestly, in high school. I was always that kid who sold the most candy bars for the school fundraiser. Like, I was just a talkative kid that liked selling things and making money. And so I go off to college to study chemical engineering, nothing to do with what I was good at. And I flunk out of school and I lose my scholarship. And my parents were devastated. I was devastated that I had lost this amazing opportunity to get a free education. And so when I came home from school, I had to make myself a promise. And that promise was that by the time my friends graduate college, I want to be making as much as the average college graduate. I figured if I couldn't have a college degree, I could at least have a college paycheck. And so over the course of the next 4 years, I became the number one sales rep at not one, but 2 Fortune 500 companies. And I saved up nearly $100,000. And it showed me in the very beginning of my journey, like, man, I can fail, but just because I fail, it doesn't make me a failure, as long as I choose not to give up. Because when I fail and don't give up, I find the ways to level up. And I had leveled up my life in a way that it gave me this confidence that, man, I can go to the world and I can try things and I can fail at them and then I can recover. And it took away a fear that I had when I was younger, that, failing is the worst thing that you can do. Living is the best thing you can do. And when you live, you're going to fail a little bit along the way. And so as I become really successful in my job, eventually it wasn't enough anymore. Like, making the sales, being the top sales rep, it just wasn't as fulfilling as it had been. And so I decided I'm going to quit. I actually quit 3 times before it stuck. Because I would quit, say I'm going to start a business, and I'll be like, oh, but these jobs look really good. They're going to pay me a lot of money. Let me go back. And so finally, on the 3rd time, when I quit that last job, my boss gave me a book called The Alchemist. And The Alchemist is an international bestseller. I think it's like 2 slots under the Bible. Like, it is a very popular book. And it talks about this boy that goes on this journey to find his treasure in life. And his treasure is at the base of the pyramids. He has a dream about it. And at the beginning of his journey, he meets this wise man that tells him that it's not just a dream. Your treasure is actually out there. And if you follow the omens, or what we would probably call signs from the universe, signs from God, whatever your belief system is, if you follow these signs, you will find your treasure. But it's up to you to follow those signs. And as I read this book, for the first time in my life, I realized like, man, my treasure is out there. And if I just follow the signs, if I just believe in the little coincidences that I see throughout my day, I too can find my treasure. And it was with that mindset that I get this late night phone call from my uncle, who's an engineer at NASA. And he was telling me about a project he was working on for the Space Launch System and how he was going to use this adhesive that NASA had invented in the 80s that was based off the feet of geckos to do this project. And since I had recently mounted my TV on the wall, I was thinking like, man, if I had this magic gecko NASA adhesive, I could have saved myself a lot of time and energy mounting this TV. I could have just stuck the TV on the wall. And, you know, at most times in my life, it probably would have been just in one ear, out the other. I mean, how many of us have had those moments where we have an idea and then a year later we see it on TV and we're like, wait a minute, that was my idea. Like that would have been me. But because of my mindset at this time, I was like, no, I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to create this thing that I imagine it could be. And while I never mounted a TV on the wall, I did figure out a way to mount a tiny TV, a smartphone on the wall. And that's where we came up with the idea for Flipstik, a little device that allows you to stick or mount your phone to virtually any flat surface so you can do hands-free pictures, hands-free videos, make TikToks and Instagram Reels hands-free, but also watch your content hands-free, whether you're on a plane and you stick it to the back of the seat, or you're in the bathroom and you just want to watch some Netflix, whatever it may be, you can use your phone hands-free. And we incorporated this NASA adhesive into our product. I learned how to file a patent and a trademark by watching YouTube videos. And we were able to launch this incredible business that is, you know, really just sent me on a whirlwind journey to figure out how to make it successful.
Wow. What a background, Akeem. But in your mind, did you think this was going to be a success?
You know, I hoped it was going to be success, but I was like, oh, we'll see what happens. In fact, I was so unconfident in it. When I had started this idea, I quit my job, but I told my parents and everyone else, oh, I'm going to start doing marketing. I'm going to be a marketing consultant. And I realized pretty quickly I didn't like marketing consultant. Like I didn't want to do that. And so when I had this idea, I told everyone, oh, this is just a marketing client of mine that is created this product called Flipstik. Because I didn't want anyone to know that I'm quitting again and I'm starting over doing something else. And so if it didn't work, I didn't want anyone to think it was my idea. And so where we launched our pre-order campaign on Kickstarter, within 2.5 minutes, we got our first sale. And over the course of the next 30 days, we made about $15,000. And I just could not believe that strangers on the internet were buying this product that didn't even exist yet. They were pre-ordering it to the tune of $15,000. And it was that once I did that, that's when I was like, you know what? I don't care what it takes. I'm going to figure out a way to make this successful. I just believed in it at that point. And I think that for a lot of us, if we don't believe in our crazy ideas and see them through to fruition, we quit too soon. We give up before it's our time to give up. And for me with Flipstik, I would face so many setbacks and hurdles. And if I hadn't have made that decision in the beginning to say, no, I will make this happen no matter what. And even more importantly, if I hadn't have gone through that process in college of losing my scholarship and recovering from it and knowing exactly what it would take to do that, I also would have given up too soon. But I chose not to. And that's the only reason I'm here today.
When did you come really clean to your parents that this is not my client, this
patience,
is my product?
So I launched the campaign. We make the $15,000. And that's when not only is that when I told them that it was my product, I had not even told them that I had quit my job because I'd already quit 2 jobs. So I'm like, I can't tell them that I quit another job. They've been mad every time I quit a job. And the only good thing is I would go to a new job and I would be more successful than the previous one. But this time I'm actually quitting on my own. So I told them I was doing marketing on the side, but I still had my full-time job. And when I told my mom I had quit, I was working at the time at a company called Square. And Square is a fintech company. They make a very popular app called Cash App, but they also make a cash register and application for small businesses to process credit cards. And so at this job, it was the most cushy job you could ever imagine. We got unlimited paid vacation. We got free catered lunches every day. We got reimbursement on all of our travel. We had meditation pods in the office. We could get reimbursed for massages. It was, it's a tech company. So it was as cushy as it gets. But the thing is, I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy anymore. Doing sales, I've been doing it for years and I was very good at it, but it wasn't fulfilling for me anymore. But I couldn't tell my parents for that. They're old school. They're like, you got a good job. You got no college education. You got benefits. You just need to stay where you are and be grateful. But, for me, my fulfillment and my happiness were more important. And because I have failed in the past, I'm like, I can always get another job. I got these jobs. I can get another one. So when I made the $15,000, I'm like, actually, this is my idea. Also, I quit 6 months ago. So, here we go.
And what did your mom say when you really told her that, you know what? Actually, this is my idea. I quit 6 months ago and I kept it under the wrap. What was her reaction?
So my mom's reaction was, oh, you're brilliant. I knew this was your idea. This is such a great idea. That was her reaction. Now, my father's reaction was, I can't believe you quit that job. What are you thinking? He was not happy. But you know what? There were many times after this moment when my mom believed in it pretty much because she's a photographer, she just loved it from the beginning. My dad, he was like, I don't know if this is going to work out. You were making a lot more money at your job. But the first time I wanted to give up on this idea, it was actually my mother who encouraged me and helped me to keep going because she believed in it sometimes even more than I did. And I remember we had sold our 15,000. We had started doing festivals. We would go to these barbecue festivals and international food festivals and all these little festivals around town, and we would sell Flipstiks and we would make a couple $100 at each one. And so then I had this idea. I said, okay, the online website's making like once a month. I know I'm good in person selling to people. Where can I sell to people every day in person? And so I decided I'll get a kiosk at the mall. The issue was the kiosk at the mall was quite expensive. It was going to be about $3,000 a month, or a total of $6,000 for the 2 months that I wanted to try it out. And I knew I should do it, but I was so afraid because here I've only made 15 grand. I've been burning through all my savings. And I had 2 buddies of mine who were helping me. They were twins, Malcolm and Martin. And they had convinced me, you know what, we shouldn't go to the mall. We should go to Los Angeles and we can sell these on the street on Hollywood Boulevard. And I was so afraid to go to the mall that I buy the plane tickets. Then I'm like, what am I doing? I remember I called my mom in tears. I'm like, Mom, I was high and I had anxiety and I bought these plane tickets. And she's like, son, you're going to call the airline. You're going to refund the tickets and you're going to go to the mall and you're going to sign up for that kiosk because you have what it takes to make this a success. And I wish I could say I believed her. I didn't. But the next day, she literally walked me in to the leasing office at the mall. She sat down with the leasing manager and she's like, listen, my son has a great idea and he needs for you to give him a discount on this kiosk so that he can come to this mall and try to sell his product. And she talked him down from $6,000 for the 2 months down to $5,000 for the 2 months. And that I only had to pay $2,000 for the first month and $3,000 for the second month. And I signed the lease. And on that first day, I sold $500 worth of product. The second day, $600. The next day, $700. And over those 2 months, Precious, we sold $30,000 worth of Flipstiks. And I just was so unbelievably grateful to her, but also grateful to myself that I listened and that I took the chance on this crazy idea and I was continuing to push it forward. But I was so close to giving up before this major opportunity to move the business forward. And it was really at the mall that my conviction was made that I'm like, okay, I'm really on to something here. If I can make $30,000 at a little mall kiosk in St. Louis, Missouri, I can make millions of dollars selling this product. People will buy it. I just have to get in front of the right audiences.
Thanks to mommy.
Listen, I owe her a lot.
most moms out there, yes, not dads, but then, yes, thanks to because it's always a team. Your mom can't say something without your dad saying, okay, push him along. So thanks
Yeah.
to the parents. So, wow,
Mhm.
story. Now, I want to know, when you went to the Shark Tank, what was in your mind?
So first let me tell you how I got on Shark Tank, because it was absolutely insane. So after I do the mall kiosk, I decide, okay, I want to be on Shark Tank. So I go to Las Vegas, and they had an audition for the show, and 40,000 people apply to be on Shark Tank every year. And so I get past the 40,000 down to the final 2,000 and past the next round to the final 250. And I get a phone call from a producer. She's like, hey, you're so close to making it on the show. We've already got it down to 250. We're going to have one more phone call with you. You're really close. We're going to let you know no matter what happens, but you're doing great. I said, okay, I'm going to be on the show. I'm following the omens, the signs of the universe. God has told me that this is my path. I'm going to be on Shark Tank. And then I get a phone call and they say, you're not going to be on Shark Tank. You're not moving forward. Sorry. And when I tell you, I was so devastated because I put all of my eggs in one basket. I just knew that Shark Tank was meant for me. And then I had the rug pulled under me. And for a month straight, I was just depressed and I was sad and I didn't believe in myself. And it was so tough. But I said to myself, if I can't have a shark as a celebrity investor, I'll go out and find another celebrity investor. And so through a crazy set of circumstances, from going to the Super Bowl to going to the BET Awards to going to all these different things, I end up finding out about this event called the Revolt Summit. And the Revolt Summit was an event hosted by billionaire rapper Sean Diddy Combs. And he was going to host this event where he was going to teach people about the music industry and how to get into the music industry. And so they were going to have a pitch competition as well for small businesses. So I said, I'm going to go, I'm going to pitch, and I'm going to get him to invest in my business. But there's one problem. And that problem was that the pitch competition was closed. They had already selected all the finalists. And I didn't know that when I spent $1,000 on a plane ticket and tickets to go to this event. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure something else out, because I had already spent this money. And so I'm researching on the website, and it turns out they were going to have a music competition and they were going to give away a record deal. And I'm like, okay, I took music appreciation. I was in jazz lab band playing the piano. I'll just write a rap and I will rap the pitch for my business Flipstik and get an investment.
Wow.
Now, that's a crazy plan. I would not suggest you write that as your dissertation for university. However, it was the only plan I had. And I was like, all right, we're going to just go and do it. And so at this point in my life, I had become very spiritual. I had learned about things like the law of attraction and learned about meditation. And I was just in such a mindset of belief in myself that, as my grandfather, who was a minister for 40 years, would say, I know he ain't brought me this far to leave me. And I just felt like I've come this far and I haven't come this far just to come this far. And so I go to the music competition. I audition. I get top marks and I get to the top 5. I'm going to be able to get on stage in front of Diddy and DJ Khaled and all these amazing artists and rappers. And I'm going to be able to rap the pitch for my business alongside these people who want a record deal. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. And about 2 hours before the competition, the top 5 was to commence, the coordinator of the competition walks over to me. She's like, Akeem, we had to disqualify you from the competition because you don't actually want to win a record deal. You're trying to pitch your business. And I'm like, so I'm in the top 5. How could you disqualify me? You're like, what? And she's like, yeah, no, we're giving away a record deal. You should have done the pitch competition. I said, I would have done the pitch competition, but y'all had already selected all the people for it. So I get disqualified, but my mindset was so solid. I was like, no, this is not the end. I am meant to be here. And the opportunity that I came here for is still awaiting me. And so right before the finals, there was a comedy show. And so I'm sitting in the comedy show. I'm not laughing because, my life's a joke at this point. And I'm like, I wanted to give up, but something inside of me just said, just stand up, Akeem, just stand up. So I stand up And then I threw my hands up and I held my product in the air. The comedian looked at me and he must have sensed the desperation in my body language because he's like, man, what are you trying to sell me? And I'm like, bro, I got this product called the Flipstik and it lets you stick your phone anywhere. You can make TikTok videos and you can watch videos hands-free. But he starts cracking jokes about all the inappropriate places he wants to stick it in the bedroom. And the crowd is just laughing and having a great time. And eventually the show gets derailed with people walking up to the stage, pitching their products and ideas and services. And eventually he lets me on the stage during his comedy act. And I get to perform my rap to the entire audience. And the same woman who had disqualified me from the competition runs up to the stage. Akeem, that was incredible. Let me introduce you to CEO of our companies. He wants to meet you. You have to come backstage and you have to come and Diddy's back here and DJ and you have to meet everyone. And also our sponsors, AT&T, they just love with you. Come. And next thing I know, I'm sitting backstage with all the celebrities and I'm like, what just happened to me? And what would go on to happen was that his organization would buy hundreds of Flipstiks from me. They invited me to come to Los Angeles to their next event to give the Flipstiks away. Then at the next event, Snoop Dogg was there. Dogg ends up loving the Flipstik. I have a viral moment where Snoop Dogg is talking about the sticky phone and how he loves the sticky phone. And between Snoop and Diddy and Revolt, they make a phone call to a casting director at Shark Tank. In fact, this casting director was one of the judges in the pitch competition that I had never pitched for. And he calls me up and he's like, I'm going to be in Kansas City in 2 days. I want you to come audition for Shark Tank. And that's how I got on the show. Because before I ever even walked in the door, he knew the whole story. And he loved the story. He had told the Shark Tank people about the story. And it wasn't the product itself that got me on the show. It was the journey that I took to bring the product to life. And that's why when you watch the episode, I come out in a spacesuit and I tear it off and I go into a rap. The reason I do the rap is because I had to do the rap for Diddy, as they just love that story so much that they like, you have to rap on Shark Tank. And what you didn't see, they got cut from the episode, because I was in there for about 45 minutes and they have to cut it down to 10, was that I told the Sharks that story of what it took for me to get on the show and how I had gotten rejected. I didn't make it on the first time. And that's, you know, for everyone out there, a lot of times my grandfather had sent me, I can't remember the verse, but he sent me something about, he talked about the storm that Jesus and the apostles were in when they were on the boat. And a lot of times we have these storms in our lives and we believe the storm is the end. We done messed up. We're off course. We're not headed in the right direction in our lives. And what we don't realize is the storm is actually knocking us on course to go the direction we're supposed to go in life. And here we are fighting the storm, thinking that this is all doom and gloom and it's not working out and God's abandoned me and the universe has got my back and I should have never read the book, The Alchemist, because those omens are liars. Like I just shouldn't, nothing's working out, not realizing the storm actually pushes us in the path that we're supposed to go because it knows our heart. And if our heart is set on a destination and set on a goal and set on a dream, sometimes it takes a storm to get us going in the right direction. And that's exactly what it was for me, because after Shark Tank and after all of the fun and the success and the fears and everything that came along with that, anytime I needed to go find investors, or when I wanted to get into retailers, or when my story got put into the Smithsonian, the largest museum in the world, it always came down to the story. And if I hadn't lived that incredible story, all the other opportunities may not have happened to me. And so it really shifted this mindset for me, where now I could see, wow, me flunking out of college was what was meant to happen. I was meant to have that chip on my shoulder so that I could go and become a great salesperson. I was meant to quit my job and start this business. I was meant to not make it on the Shark Tank. All of these things were meant to happen because they were guiding me down this path that I didn't quite know where I was going. I knew the direction, but took me on this roundabout path to really get me where it is that I wanted to be. And what I would ultimately find out is, as we became more successful with Flipstik, I would get asked to come speak to people, right? Come tell them the journey of where I had been and what I had done. And, if I had got on Shark Tank the first time, I was less than 6 months into my business. I just started the company. If I'd have gone on, there would not have been much of a story to tell, right? It just wouldn't have been there. And the fact that I had lived this incredible journey, it made the talks entertaining. It made people want to listen. It made them believe in themselves, because we're all going through storms in our lives. And I found that I loved telling people stories that would inspire them to take action, to pursue the highest version of themselves, and to become the person that they were meant to become. And now I get to speak to people all over the world on their journeys, whether it's about storytelling or, becoming invincible, or or about sales or mental health, or all kinds of topics. But I get to tell them these incredible stories and journey that I've been on. And ultimately, what led us to success online was just leaning in, not just to my story, but learning that, wow, our customers have incredible stories too. What happens when we start to tell their stories? What happens when we take away the product and we stop focusing on what the product does, its features and benefits, and we start telling the story of the people that have been affected by the product? It started with my story, but then it branched out to employee stories and customer stories and people who I met. And that's when we really started to find true success.
And someone who's out there trying to start their business and they're having these setbacks.
If you can put yourself in a mind space where you block everything else out and simply ask yourself, am I where I am supposed to be? That is an incredible compass to help you on your journey. Where you're supposed to be doesn't mean where you're going. You may know where you're going, but in this moment, are you where you're supposed to be? And I try to ask myself that every day. And when people go to my website, they'll see 2 words: becoming invincible. What I've realized is that if you pursue just those 2 words in your life, everything else will work out. Because look, becoming invincible means you're trying to be invincible. You may not be there yet, but you know that is your goal. I am becoming invincible. And in the endeavor of becoming, you find that, man, invincibility sometimes means you get knocked down. All superheroes get knocked down. They lose the fight, but they never lose the war, because they don't quit. They don't give up. They heal, they come back, and they succeed. So I choose to know every day, am I where I'm supposed to be? And am I becoming invincible?
Thank you for sharing the story. Wow. Put man aside, now you're successful. How do you know you're successful?
So, oh man, that's a good question. I remember this was about a year or 2 ago. I decided I wanted to take a trip. I had never been outside the US other than walked across the border to Mexico. And we decided that we're going to go to Europe. And through a whole set of circumstances, we end up deciding we're going to take this trip from Barcelona to Paris, and then to Rome, and then from Rome to Venice. So we go on this huge trip, and we went with 2 of our friends who are also a couple. And I'm just on this trip, and I'm looking at all these incredible things, people whose language I don't understand. And I just remember being like, you know what? We were sitting under the Eiffel Tower, and I was eating the most French baguette sandwich you could imagine. And, my whole life, I just never thought, I thought when I heard of Paris, France, to me, that was something that only the rich and famous could do. You can't just go to Paris. At least that's what my parents had told me. And here I was sitting here having lunch under the Eiffel Tower, just having a ball. And it just felt like a movie. My life felt like a movie. And I've been on Shark Tank, I've done all these things, I met all these people, but it was always work related. And here I was just relaxing, and I just felt truly successful in that moment. And that was the first time I was like, man, I've made it. I'm jet setting across Europe. This is great.
But what grounds you?
There's a couple of things for me. I think for one, I get setbacks a lot. Okay. Like I fail a lot, but I truly believe that if you're pursuing the best version of yourself, if you're always becoming better and becoming invincible, you're going to face lots of failures. Like that's just comes with the territory. But for me, that's living. So anytime I go and I fail, like I get reset pretty quick. I get humbled very quickly. And I won't say I love it, but I've learned to accept that that's part of the process. And so when I am failing, I know that it's just helping me pivot and go on this path to get to where it is that I'm trying to go. I get humbled quite often, but I'm also just very blessed to have family and friends and employees and investors and people that really just keep me grounded. And, they don't let me get too high and mighty on myself. And so, I think it really does, especially, when your mental health is low. And when you go on an entrepreneurial journey, like it's a very lonely road. It's very difficult. There's lots of ups and downs. There's no stability. Having people in your corner that can lift you up when you need lifting up, remind you who you are when you start to get a little too far outside of the lines, I think that's very important. And so I'm just grateful for, friends and family and loved ones that have always done that for me.
When you walked in the Shark Tank, that is one thing I saw. You have this energy, your confidence, as you mentioned that you are a top sales marketer out there. What makes you that?
What was interesting, and I didn't realize this till after Shark Tank for me, was that very similar to an athlete where you hear them talk about, it's the championship game. The championship is on the line. I have to make this shot. I got 2 seconds, and they go out and they do it. And they live for those moments. That those moments are not moments of fear. They live for those moments. Like for me, that's how I felt walking into the Shark Tank. Like my whole life, my whole business, on my sales career, everything had come down to this one moment. I wasn't going to get another shot. This was my only chance. And I had to execute flawlessly on it. But for me, even though my heart, when I tell you I thought I was having a heart attack, it was beating so fast. Like I thought my heart was going to pop out my chest. But as soon as those doors opened and I started speaking, like I was so relaxed and in my element, like I just felt so good. And I understood for the first time, like how champions feel. And I really think it is just having that heart of a champion, like just knowing like, man, this is a moment and it may not work out, but if it does, it's going to be so sweet. And I will live up to this moment. I will take every advantage of it while I'm here. And so that really taught me that. And I'd had that several times throughout my career, whether it was with the comedian, going on stage, or whether it was with Snoop Dogg, or whether it was back when I worked at the Fortune 500 company. We had a competition called Verizon Rockstar where I did a pitch competition and had to be on stage pitching, ended up winning that whole competition. I always perform my best when it's the most amount of pressure and there's no opportunity to reset. Like it's just one shot, you got to make it happen. That's typically for me when I do my best performances. And so when you think about sales, the only reason I'm able to do those things is because I was in sales. Sales is an opportunity where you get to meet someone who doesn't know you, and you within a short period of time have to win them over to be your friend, to understand that, hey, I may be giving you some advice and I may tell you about some product or service, but I have your best interest at heart. And so I had so many at-bats being in sales, like talking to people, making, as they say in the book, making friends and influencing people, that for me, it all just comes down to that. Like it's all sales, and you're just either selling yourself, you're selling your story, you're selling your product. And so when the pressure was on and it was the biggest sale of my life, like I just kind of rose to the occasion because I had done it before. And I just kind of saw it as the same way I may have sold, a little old lady that needed to upgrade from a flip phone to an iPhone, when I was working in the cell phone shop, like the same way I had to sell Lori on Shark Tank. It was just getting to know them, letting them know who I was and understand that, hey, our interests are aligned.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
To me, the biggest thing is understanding the power of storytelling. And I hinted on that earlier, but when I was in sales, I never really took the time to understand what it was that I was doing. I just went out, talked to people, they bought stuff. Like that was I never really thought of it beyond that. But when someone was asking me, hey, can you put together a sales course for our entrepreneurs. I had to really dive into, okay, why am I able to sell things? Like, what is going on? And I realized it was the storytelling was making it happen. I think that when we have our businesses, sometimes we get so caught up in what it is that we're offering that we take ourselves out of the product. And when you're as good as your product or service may be, you have to be able to connect with someone at an intimate level, especially when you're small. And I remember when I first started my business, I would send emails and say, I'll use the word, hey, we are interested in talking to you. We have a great product. It was never me, right? Like you want to pretend like, oh, I'm this big conglomerate company that you should work with and make ourselves bigger. But what I realized was actually when I told a smaller story and say, hey, I'm interested in working with you. Let me tell you who I am. Let me tell you about a customer who I help that you remind me of. All of a sudden, the whole dynamic changed because now it wasn't just that people wanted the product for the product. Now they wanted to be a part of the journey because by them buying your product or service, they become part of your journey and you become part of theirs. So when you tell them your journey and they're excited about it, they're like, man, I just want to buy this to help them along the way and be a small piece of it. So I can say that I knew them when. And on the flip side, when you tell them the story of your customers and a customer that reminds them of themselves, they say, wow, they were a part of another person's story and they helped them enhance their journey. If I let them be a part of my story, what could it do for my business? And so it's all about this aspect of storytelling and really being able to touch people in a way where they're vulnerable, where you're not trying to just sell them something because you're trying to hit your bottom line. But it's like, no, like, I think this could make a difference for you. And when we started, we leaned heavily on my story for a long time. Anytime we were selling to big retailers like Target or QVC, Home Shopping Network, Best Buy, all these major American retailers, it was always my story was really driving the sales cycle. But the superpower that we unlocked was our customer stories. And I remember when my marketing guy, he said, hey, you got to check out, we have an affiliate program for our customers and for anyone who wants to sign up and make money, offering Flipstiks to their audience. And so someone has signed up, this kid, and he was making videos and he was selling a ton of Flipstik and he didn't have a big audience. We're like, and my marketing guy's like, you got to see this kid. And so he shows it to me and this kid was deaf, all right, couldn't speak, spoke with American Sign Language. And, I had never given much thought to American Sign Language. I'm like, hey, if you can't speak, well, we got texting nowadays. You can just text your friends and families, no big deal, right? Well, I was wrong because just like when we really have to have a real conversation, we pick up the phone, we want to talk, we want people to hear the emotion in our voice, we FaceTime, we want people to feel our facial expressions. The same thing happens in the deaf community. That emotion is coming through their hands and their signs and their facial expressions and the noises that they make. And so FaceTime was really the way to really connect with your friends and your family. And there's an issue. You need both hands to sign. And so you can't hold your phone and sign at the same time, at least not efficiently. And so this kid was making videos to people in his community saying, hey, you can buy one of these Flipstiks. And now on the go, instead of you having to text, you can take your phone, stick it to a wall, FaceTime your friends and family, and you can sign just like you would if you were right in front of them. It's great. And I was so moved by this kid who I never would have thought we could have solved a problem like that. I'm thinking people are making TikTok videos and watching YouTube. Like that's really like the sum of what we're doing here. But here, this person have found a use case for our product that actually was meaningful, not just his life, but meaningful in thousands of people's lives. And we started taking that story and we told that story to our customers. And whether they were deaf or not, that's such a powerful story. People are like, yeah, if that kid found a way how to use it, imagine what I could use it for. But we also started telling those stories to corporations who were going to buy our Flipstiks in bulk and put their logos on it. We told it to retailers. We told it to investors. And we started finding all these powerful stories from our customers. I remember this customer told me, he's like, man, I bought a Flipstik from you years ago when you were in the mall in St. Louis. And 2 years later, the pandemic happens. I'm in the hospital with my wife. She's about to give birth to our firstborn child. None of our family could come in the hospital. And I wanted to record it so the rest of our family could see. But my wife was like, no, I need you by my side. I need you holding my hand through this process. I remembered, oh, that annoying kid in the mall gave me this thing to stick my phone to the wall. I looked at my phone, and for the first time ever, I flipped open your product. I stuck it to the wall. And every time I watch the birth of my firstborn child, I think about you. Which I'm telling you, that's kind of weird. But he was just so grateful because in this one moment, the first time he even used the product, he's like, I only bought it from you to get you to stop talking to me. But in this moment, it was the most important little accessory I ever could have owned, because now I have the video of my child's birth, and I'm also in the video with my wife, and our whole family watched it. And it was just like, wow. It was just really, for me, it was truly incredible to hear and receive these stories from people, because I just never imagined that my product could affect people in that way. And for all of the entrepreneurs out there, no matter what it is you sell, product, service, whether it's an app, it doesn't really matter. There are people out there that need whatever it is that you have created. You don't even know they need it. You don't know why they need it, but they need it. And it's really an obligation for you to pursue this path, to pursue your dreams, so that you can put it in their hands, because you don't know what difference it's going to make in their lives. But when you find out, it will confirm your conviction and all the hard work and all the storms and everything that you've been through in order to get to that point. But it'll also allow you to excel and to grow your business, because if it's one person's story, trust me, it's 1,000 other people's story too. And as you tell that story, you'll continue to grow your audience, whether it's online, whether it's offline, whether it's to distributors, whether it's to investors, to partners, even when it comes down to building a team. The only way you build a team, especially when you're small, is you got to have people believe in your story. And when you tell those stories, that's how you get great employees to come work for you, even when they could make more money working someplace else. It's all about the story that you create through the journey you live and the story you tell to get people to invest in your journey.
Wow. Let's move on to the business side. How does it feel to be the CEO of the Inc. magazine?
Yeah, so, I remember it was kind of, I never dawned on me like how far we had come. Like, I remember I was looking up a statistic of US businesses that pass $1 million in revenue, and it's such a small percentage. It's like only like, I don't know, it's like 70% of businesses fail. And then of the businesses that succeed, only like 5% or 10% ever pass $1 million in annual revenue. And so when I realized like, oh, wow, like, I've really, done something here. Like, I may not be a billionaire, but, I've made a few $1 million. Like, this is incredible. And so we applied for Inc. magazine to be featured as to see if we would be one of the fastest growing companies in America. And over the course of about 3 years, we had grown about 800. So we had a lot of growth in a short period of time. So we applied, and we ended up being in the top 50 fastest growing consumer product brands and one of the top 1,000 fastest growing companies, period, in America. And a couple of weeks ago, I get email, and it's actually from the editors of Inc. magazine. And they're like, hey, we want you to come down to South by Southwest, this huge conference. And I was already actually planning on going because I had another speaking engagement. And they're like, hey, we want to feature you at our Inc. magazine house, and we want you to talk about using your personal brand on social media to grow and scale your business. And I went down, and we did it. It was just this great, fun experience. And man, it was one of those moments where you kind of realize why, like in Hollywood, they have the Oscars and the Grammys and all these things to give you awards. Because sometimes it's nice to just remember and get something that says like, wow, look, you really did something. And so, every time I have behind me in my office, I have the actual Inc. magazine, as well as like it's a big, humongous plaque thing that has all our numbers and all that kind of stuff on it. And it just reminds me like, hey, you did something big, and you created something from nothing, and that's something to be proud of. And it's a reminder for me, because every day I don't feel good. Every day I don't feel successful. Every day I don't feel like I'm accomplishing all my goals, but it's important to reflect and to show gratitude for what you have done, what you have come through. And anytime I'm not feeling good, like my go-to is gratitude. Like, what am I thankful for? Let's start there. And when I go to that place, I think about all the things I've accomplished and the opportunities I've had and the lucky breaks that I've gotten. For me, it always helps to right my ship, of my soul, so that I feel better, so that I can move forward and can continue to accomplish, my goals and aspirations.
In a quick nutshell, what advice would you give someone who is starting out and they have tried 1 or 2, 5, 6, 7 things, they have not worked, but they're still thinking that, I haven't finished. I still got something there. I still have something to share with the world. What can you tell them?
The biggest mistake that people make when they're starting something is they give up too quickly. That's it. If you've tried 5 or 6 things, you should have stuck with the first thing the whole time. That's really what it comes down to. The mistake I made when I first got started is I tried to do everything, right? When you're a creative spirit and you have an entrepreneurial spirit, you want to go out and try all these different things and do this, that, and the other. Pick one thing, just one. All the others must wait, because you can't, they say, what's the phrase? A doer of many is a master of none, right? So you can only do one thing well. So just do the one thing. When you do that thing really well, you'll have employees, you'll have people, and then you can go do one other thing. You have to remember that when Amazon started, they didn't sell any of the stuff they sell now. It was an online bookstore. They only sold books. That's it, nothing else. For years, they only sold books. And it wasn't until they became the biggest bookstore in the world that they said, you know what? Let's add something else to this. Let's start selling electronics. And once they became the biggest retailer in the world, they said, well, let's start selling digital movies and music and a subscription service. And it wasn't until they became the best at that, they're like, even prior to all those things, they became the #1 cloud platform in the world. They always picked one thing to work on. It was books. Then it was the largest cloud platform. Then it was the largest retailer. Then it was the largest movie and music distributor. Like, they do one thing at a time until they get really well at it, the best at it, and then they move on. And for a lot of us, we think we can do all of it at the very beginning. No, pick one thing, focus on it, and keep going until you simply can't go anymore. And that's the only way that I've found to find success doing anything is keep it simple. One thing, and don't give up on it.
Thank you. Tell us about your business and how can we join you?
Yeah, so, if you are interested in purchasing a Flipstik, you can do so by visiting either our social media channels or our website. They are all at Get, Flip, F-L-I-P, Stick, S-T-I-K. If you're interested in learning more about my journey, maybe you need a little bit of motivation, you're looking for a speaker for your next event, you can visit me on all social media channels at Akeem, A-K-E-E-M, Shannon, S-H-A-N-N-O-N, as well as AkeemShannon.com. And for those who are like, look, I need some support now. Like, I need just somebody to speak some positivity in my life, to help me get on the right track, to get in the right headspace. I have a totally free group chat that you can join. And you can join that just using your cell phone by texting +1 314 789 9.
Thank you. There will be more from Akeem in a moment. If you are encouraged by Akeem's journey, please go to my website at untold.com, where you will find more amazing free content. Are you struggling to achieve one or more of your major goals? Do things like fear, confusion, and overwhelm get in the way? Then maybe I can help. I work with clients to support them get unstuck and make massive leaps forward to create their dream life. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com/coaching. That's onlinesuccessjourney.com/coaching. Now, Akeem, I would love for you to share more with my audience if we are up for it.
Yes, let's do it.
Thank you. Do you watch movies or read books?
Movies.
Okay. Tell us, what is your favorite movie that has some relevance to being an entrepreneur?
Air. A-I-R, Air. It's the story of Nike and getting Michael Jordan to sign with them. He literally saved their business. They were on the verge of going out of business. And it talks about the journey that the salesperson went on, the marketing person went on to get Michael Jordan on their team, and how he literally saved Nike, but also revolutionized the way that sports equipment was sold.
If your business was down to its last $100, how would you invest it?
Oh, wow. Down to the last $100, I fill up my gas tank and I drive to whoever is the one person that could turn everything around. And I drive to wherever they are and I don't stop until they say yes.
What have you learned from business as a whole?
When you're in the right business at the right time in your life, that brings you true fulfillment, no matter how much money you're making.
If you had a little note in your pocket, what would that mean to you? Or on your cell phone nowadays?
The note that I write to myself is stay becoming invincible. I may not be invincible yet, but I can always be becoming.
Do you feel like you succeeded or like you are only on the way?
Only on the way.
Will you ever stop?
Never.
Thank you. As we are coming to the end of our interview, what additional wisdom would you like to share with our listeners?
The one thing I haven't touched on that was the most instrumental in helping me find success was I found an incredible mentor. And whatever you are pursuing in your life, the single best thing that you can do for yourself is to go and find someone who has done what it is you're trying to do and ask them to be your mentor, because it will help you avoid mistakes. They will make phone calls on your behalf. They will connect you with people. It is not just a superpower, but it helps accelerate anything that you're doing to have a great mentor. And a great mentor is not your mama, okay? You love your mother, but she's not a great mentor. It's got to be someone who has done what it is you're trying to do. And so when I started Flipstik, we got going a little bit, I found a great mentor that had created his own consumer product brand, and he helped me tremendously. And now that I'm on this new journey to become one of the greatest motivational speakers in the world, I've been in search of a mentor. I think I may have just found one recently who had turned his story into a $25 million a year business in training and teaching people, about his journey. And so a mentor is so crucial. So go find yourself a mentor.
Remind us how we can connect with you.
Yep. So once again, you can buy our product at Get Flipstik or getflipstik.com, as well as on Amazon, and just by searching Flipstik. And if you want to connect with me, or maybe even need a mentor, because I do mentoring as well, you can reach me at Shannon, SHANNON.com.
Akeem, it's been great to have you to share your online success journey with us.
Thank you for having me, Patience.
You are welcome. Remember, success is a journey. Don't wait. Let's start the journey. Patience and Akeem.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Patience and her guest, and want you to know that there are hundreds of episodes available at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Patience would like to thank you for listening to the podcast, and she has a free gift for you on her website, including an audio compilation of her guests' best tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. Additionally, there are special clips of over 250 episodes that have never aired on the podcast and are only available to members of the Online Success Journey. Check the website and click on Join Now to get free and instant access. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps us each chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed on the favorite platform you have to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review the podcast at Apple Podcasts and other sites. We appreciate your help and your willingness to share the journey. One last thing, if you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed on your own journey, Patience can help. Check out our coaching sessions on how to set goals and double your productivity while you're at the website. Working with Patience is a great way to get back on the right path. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.